Another guy, so this name is not quite as familiar as some of the other ones, but George Rogers, another running back out of South Carolina. He won the Heisman in 1980. Um, he had a strong rookie season, was a solid performer over the years. He never made an All-Pro team, but he did make the Pro Bowl twice, which puts him in I think the win category for us here. We are going again. If you want got an All-Pro or you made a Pro Bowl, then we're considering you a success in the NFL. Uh, he rushed for almost 1,700 yards as a rookie. He ended his career with 7,000 yards. So again, not great, not 9,000 like Earl Campbell or 12,000 like Tony Dorsett, but he had a long NFL career, and we're going to put him in the win category versus the bust category. And this one's another no-brainer. This is a big name. Everybody knows him. One of the greatest running backs in NFL history. One of the greatest players in NFL history. Possibly the greatest player in Raiders history. Depends who you ask. But Marcus Allen, running back out of USC, won the Heisman in 1981. He is one of the few running backs with a Super Bowl MVP. Um, his senior season, he rushed for, sorry, not his senior season, but yeah, drafted 10th overall by the Raiders in 1982. Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champ, multi-time Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, 12,243 rushing yards, 123 total touchdowns. So that's rushing and receiving. Just one of the best players in NFL history, and this is a no-brainer, win in the category. He was a multi-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler. Probably would have had a better career if it wasn't for Bo Jackson, stealing some of his carries, and Al Davis possibly sabotaging his career. I don't know who you ask. Depends who you ask, I should say. Marcus Allen, a clear winner for us here in the category. Next, Herschel Walker. This one is a little more controversial than I would have thought, but some of that was because of where he started his career. But Herschel Walker wins the Heisman in 1982 for Georgia, one of the best college players in history, one of the best running backs in college football history, and a guy that never made an All-Pro team in the NFL, but he was a 2-time Pro Bowler. But the fact that he started his career in the USFL may have, tainted this a little bit, but he did have a stellar USFL career, which was a short-lived spring football league in the 80s. And definitely if he had been, if drafted to the NFL directly, if he had chosen to play in the NFL versus skipping his senior season and going to play in the USFL, definitely would have had a much better NFL career. I'm still going to put him in the win category. He still had, I think 8,200 yards total, I believe, between the NFL and the USFL. The fact that he spent the start of his career somewhere else shouldn't ding him. I think we can just say that he was a great pro across USFL and the NFL. So definitely one in the win category. And again, also a 2-time Pro Bowler. Unfortunately, he is mostly known for being the player that got traded that led to the Cowboys dynasty in the 90s. He was the building block that Jimmy Johnson used to get, Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and all these guys. But he definitely deserves better recognition than that for his pro play. 1983, Mike Rozier, another running back out of Nebraska. So he is another guy that got his career, I want to say, derailed a little bit by the USFL. And the fact that he had some personal problems off the field. He, again, just like Herschel Walker, chose to chase some of the riches in the USFL versus going to the NFL. He also had a lot of off the field issues. I recently read a book about the USFL by Jeff Pearlman, and they talked about Mike Rozier. I believe he played for the Pittsburgh Maulers was their name of the team. And he loved to party. So his kryptonite was not, injuries or anything else like that. He just had a boisterous off the field life, and that led to some of the struggles. So maybe if he goes to the NFL with a little more structure around him versus the USFL, which was kind of flying by the seat of their pants, he would have had a better professional career. He ends up rushing for 6,600 yards total across his pro career. In the NFL, 4,400 yards and 30 touchdowns, which is not terrible. But he didn't make an All-Pro, didn't make a Pro Bowl. So we'll put him kind of in the middle category, not quite a bust, not quite a win, but just for the fact, for the sake of our statistics, he was not a Heisman success story in the NFL. Bo Jackson. I'm sitting here wearing my Bo Jackson White Sox jersey. Uh, he won the Heisman in 1985 for Auburn. He is a legend on the football field, on the baseball diamond, one of the great athletes of the modern era, possibly the greatest athlete in American history. Maybe some people give it to Jim Brown or Jim Thorpe, but this guy was like a legendary Paul Bunyan type figure. And the fact that he was able to succeed in the NFL and make one Pro Bowl, he made one Pro Bowl in his career, never made an All Pro. His career was just cut short by a brutal hip injury, but I think he still deserves to be put in this win category. So he was drafted in the 7th round in 1986 because, he wanted to play baseball over football, but Al Davis, always the gambler, always the innovator, chose to draft him, and he ends up playing for the Los Angeles Raiders at the time. He had a 5.4 yards per carry average, which is somewhere in, the top 5, whatever, in NFL history. So a very short-lived career, but a very memorable career. And I would definitely put him in the win category. People talk about him potentially being a Hall of Famer in 2 sports if it wasn't for the injury. Maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but definitely in the win category. And he just makes it barely because he made the Pro Bowl one time. Next, another Raider, Mr. Raider, some people call him, and that's Tim Brown. So this is our first wide receiver in a while, but he won the Heisman in 1987 with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and he had a incredibly long and productive career with the Raiders. He did his final season with the Buccaneers. We don't need to talk about that, but he had over 14,000 yards. And I think if it wasn't for Jerry Rice, he would be recognized as the, GOAT receiver when it comes to longevity and production, because he had such a long career. He was drafted first overall in 1988, and I believe he retired in 2004. So a long and storied career, and a guy who unfortunately didn't have that much team success, which might have held him back from some of these GOAT conversations, but an incredible player, an incredible legend. He's another guy next to Marcus Allen, who some people consider as the greatest Raiders player, but the team's been around for so long, it's hard to pick just one guy as the greatest Raiders player. So definitely a win. He was a multi-time All-Pro, a 9-time Pro Bowler, caught 1,094 passes for nearly 15,000 yards and 100 touchdowns. So if Travis Hunter gets anywhere close to these numbers, then I think definitely a win for him and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Barry Sanders. I don't even know if I need to talk about Barry Sanders. Just an incredible player, one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. Some say the greatest running back in NFL history. His career was cut short by the incompetence of the Detroit Lions, and he retired early. I believe he only played 9 seasons, but he was drafted in the first round, 3rd overall in 1989. Rushed for 15,269 yards and 99 touchdowns in just 10 seasons. So, quick math, that is 9 touchdowns and 1,500 yards on average in his 10 seasons with the Detroit Lions. And just a guy who probably would have been the NFL's all-time leading rusher if he had hung around for a few more years, but he decided to walk away early from the game. But, an easy win category here. Obviously, he plays a different position than Travis Hunter, but just like another guy who won the Heisman and had incredible GOAT level success in the NFL. And he's always compared to Emmitt Smith because they were the dueling running backs at the time. And people would always talk about, if Emmitt played in Dallas, he would have, broken Walter Payton's record in 8 seasons or whatever it was, which is, not fair to Emmitt Smith for his consistency and his excellence. But it's fair. It's fair to make those comparisons because you talk about how much Barry Sanders struggled behind a poor Detroit offensive line and just a bad Detroit team that could never quite figure it out.